Hey guys, how you doing? I got a question for you. What kind of training program or what kind of procedures do you have in place to protect your employees, especially your minority employees? Do you got any kind of protections for them? And I'm not talking about protections for them that give them special treatments or anything, but what do you got in place for them to teach them so that, especially your minority employees, that they're not targeted by other groups or other organizations or even the police for because of their minority? You got things like that in place? Because right now in our political climate today, there are definitely things we need to do to protect not all of not just all of our employees, but all of our employees, but mostly our minority employees. All right, let's talk about that. Hi guys, I'm Jae Burnham, and this is the Real Jae Burnham Show. And today is a really strange, but over the last few days, we've been hearing nothing about the bad news coming out of Charlottesville, and definitely, and it's not the first one, but it's just in the news constantly. But we've heard the news. It's really been ramped up since Donald Trump has become president. Some of you know that I lean conservative politically. That said, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I would rather had him than Hillary Clinton, but I would rather had somebody out far different than Donald Trump as our president. That said, I don't think that he's a racist or a white nationalist or any of those things. I do think that not a lot, but there was a portion of his base that gravitated towards him. And unfortunately, there was one person who was a white nationalist who was right in his ear, and that was Steve Bannon. And I think that's unfortunate. I think Donald Trump was voted as our president because I think a lot of people saw him as a rebel, saw him someone who wasn't an insider, and somebody that would get things done. And there is no doubt since in his short time that he's accomplished a lot of things. Unemployment is down for like the most it's ever been down in like 2 decades. The stock market keeps hitting record highs. Wages are actually moving upward for the first time in like 15 years. Oil and gas prices are held down. There are a lot of things that he's done that I approve of. But there are a tremendous amount of things that he's doing that I disapprove of. And I'll be the first one to come out and admit that. I don't like how he uses tweets. However, Charlottesville was a petri dish of Donald Trump's stances on the hard right and the hard left. I like the fact that he goes after the hard left, and they should be gone after mercilessly. I'm not a fan of the alt-left, if you will use that term. I'm not a fan of the far extreme left. I'm also not a fan of the far extreme right. I don't want to be anywhere associated with it, and it breaks my heart that these people, these white nationalists, these KKK, these neo-Nazis would usurp my political party to meet their own agenda. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about what's resulting from that. It is evident. It is evident that our employees need to be protected from different viewpoints, if you will. Not that we should limit different viewpoints. Not that we should be the arbiter of people's varying political, sociological, economical viewpoints. We shouldn't. It's not our job as business owners to dictate or tell our employees what kind of thoughts that they should have, nor is it our job to police what kind of thoughts they have. But it is our job to tell them and to train them what they can express while working for us, right? That when you work for us, you represent us. And that representation, unfortunately, in today's society, goes outside of work hours. The alt-left, anonymous, these groups will attack your employees if your employees do not have the similar beliefs as these people, and they will make it so that their beliefs reflect upon you and your business. And I think that's terrible. And vice versa, just because an owners of a company has a certain set of belief systems, the alt-left will then try to make it that all the employees will have those same set of belief systems. This is not true. So we need to protect our employees from such situations. All right. So we need to start putting in place that anybody who associates radical thinking are not to associate that radical thinking with the company. We need to put that in place, and that needs to be part of our agreement when we hire somebody in. Hey, you can have your radical, if you're a KKK or if you're BLM, fine, go and do that. Do that, but do not associate your associations with those groups as an association with my business. Don't wear company shirts to these organizations or these events or rallies or riots or loots or whatever you call them. Do not wear any kind, do not associate, do not pass out business cards. Do not say that you work for such and such company when you're out at these type of rallies, right? You cannot have your employees. And if they do, and it gets back to you, you need to fire those employees. Now, what about if I were to have, or any of you guys who are business owners and moving company owners, if you were to have a certain set of political beliefs and ideologies and socioeconomic thoughts, how do you protect your employees from that? Well, you, as a business owner, have to put it on your Facebook page, your Twitter page. You've got to refrain from putting on pictures or acknowledgments of certain groups. And when you see things that are happening that are evil, like just what happened in Charlottesville, where this white nationalist, so-called Nazi ran over this beautiful, gorgeous woman who just happened to disagree with his viewpoint, we want to be able to separate our employees from that. If you agreed with that young man, that's fine. It's none of my business. I personally think you're repugnant if that's the case. But you are allowed in this country to have such viewpoints. I served in the United States military, the United States Army, to protect your right to have that viewpoint and to say that viewpoint. But if you're going to do have those viewpoints, you're going to have those views, you're going to have these radical views, whether it's right or left or some other kind of direction, you're going to have radical views. Do not associate your business with those radical views. Try to keep them separate. Sometimes that you can't do that. You know, if you're a white supremacist, most likely you're not going to be hiring Jews or black people or Mexicans. But if you were, which would be odd, but if you were, you need to separate your views from the work environment. Right? You do not want your employees to feel uncomfortable by your political views. That is not your job to try to politicize them while they're on the job working for you. And vice versa. It's not their job to try to politicize or try to rally other employees or even yourself to their particular political views. So we need to have in our businesses protections against such ideologies. Right? We need to start training our people to have respect for one another, to acknowledge to acknowledge a person's point of view without getting upset. There are programs, there are training systems you can do to train somebody to not get riled by people who are upset and so forth. Also, if you have minority employees, then we also need to train them, especially if you, unfortunately, if you have Mexican and black people as employees today and age, there's a likelihood that they're going to be stereotypically profiled. If you've got a crew of black people and they're in a moving truck, the police are probably going to be likely to pull you guys over. That said, they don't restrict it to just black people. I have been pulled over by the police several times just because I was in a moving truck. Yes, it's illegal. Yes, they had no probable cause other than I was in a moving truck. But they still did it. Now, it's not my time, and it's not your employees' time, to try to debate, argue, or be belligerent with a police officer or some other authority figure at that moment in time. Their time, right then, what they should do is be respectful, say yes sir, yes ma'am, comply with all orders, whether they're lawful or not. And if you have the opportunity, it should be filmed and videotaped, your encounters with such authorities at all times. If they're outside the truck, you should, and they're looking at things, your guys should be outside the truck videoing it if you can do it without upsetting the authorities. Unfortunately, in our society, especially ever since Donald Trump has come on the scene, Obama started it when he became president. There is no doubt about it. If you want to argue, we can argue, but that's not the point. Obama came, we became very divided as a nation. That's true. But we were, for the most part, very, very much peaceful in our divisions. Yes, we would yell and scream, we'd get on Facebook and rant and rave, but it was peaceful for the most part. Yes, there was pockets here and there that did various things. Donald Trump comes along and he exacerbates that division between us. It's unfortunately, but it's true. We cannot stick our heads in the sand and say it's not there. We cannot stick and say there is not racial profiling. There is. When I was in the military, I was trained as a military police officer. We did a lot of similar training as local police officers do today. One of the things that we were trained in was profiling. And yes, profiling towards black people was one of the things. If we saw a black person who dressed like a hood and a thug and a criminal, we would be very suspicious of them, and we would be looking for things, no matter how minor, to see what we could do to stop them. That's how we were trained. This is a truism. At that time, Mexicans were not as ostracized as they are right now. Now, we are in the business of our businesses. I own a moving business. I don't know what business you're in. If you're a moving business owner, you and I are in the same business. We've got to make sure that we put in place trainings and protections within our organization to protect our employees. We should have our employees back as long as they're in the right at all times. That's not to say that we shouldn't be, if a customer calls up and starts complaining about one of our employees, that doesn't mean we shouldn't listen to the customer's concerns. We should. But just because the customer might be saying they didn't like the service because that they might be black. And this has happened to me. They were upset that I sent a crew of black people to their home. And the first thing that said, those black people robbed me. First of all, when you say those black people, that term, that phrase right there, indicated to me that these guys were nuts. I had my people's back. I still followed up on my customers' concerns, just to follow up, and I did what I could do. But I'm going to have my employees back at any given chance. I suggest you do the same thing. That will build loyalty and morale from your employees to you. It will only help the business. But we also need to make sure that our employees are trained and instructed in how they should behave in certain stressful situations. Yesterday I talked about police and confrontation. This is sort of the next step. We need to put in place how we're going to handle and protect our employees once they've done and handled the confrontation. Right? We need to put in place trainings that protect our employees from our views and protect us from their views. Hopefully this makes sense to you guys and you understand where I'm coming from. I'm just saying that we must make sure that we put into place into our company, even more so now in today's age in our political environment, these trainings and instructions and rules. Unfortunately, in our climate, we are so divisive and there is so much hate spewed from both the left and the right that it's becoming very untenable. And in that untenable times that we're in, which I feel is going to probably only get worse, we need to be the beacons and bastions of sanity and perseverance. We as business owners need to set the tone and set the pace and be the example of how this country operates. We should not be out there from our stances as business owners trying to create dissension. We can have our beliefs, right, wrong, or indifferent, however they are. We can implement those beliefs to a certain degree in our business. For instance, Chick-fil-A, the owners, the Cathy family, has where they do not operate on Sundays because of their Christian beliefs. I applaud them. What I don't agree with the Cathy family is that the Cathy family, being very well known, have certain political beliefs. They can have their political beliefs, but if they're going to support a certain group or activity, like being anti-abortion, they should leave those views separate from their company. They should support pro-life organizations without being in the public eye supporting them. Right? There is a line in the Bible which I think is appropriate. Don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. Jesus was talking about you giving of money and being giving, that your left hand shouldn't know what your right hand's doing and vice versa. Which just basically means is don't be ostentatious about your different beliefs and your givings. Don't be trying to get recognition for what you believe in, or the fact that you give or tithe or whatever, right? It should actually be hidden from your own view, sort of thing. And I think that if we have that same viewpoint in our businesses, then I think we'll be very good. And if you do, business owners, if you do object with somebody's political views, do so in a respectful manner. It's okay to debate. On my personal page, you'll find my political views. But on my business Facebook page, for my business, you will find no politics whatsoever. Politics should be separate from your personal life. When I debate with people on Facebook, I debate. And I try to be as respectful as I can. Sometimes I fail. This is true. I'll be the first to admit it. That is a failing that I have, and I'm trying to work on it. But I'm not talking about politics. But I'll tell you right now, I have earned the respect of those who I've debated with. I've had people who I have debated with, vehemently with, actually send me potential customers. And they do it often. Now, these people know me, they respect me, and they're confident in my abilities. They have been able to determine and keep separate my personal views from my business. Not everybody can do that. And I'm sure if I were to abuse that, then things could happen. And it has happened where I've had some people, again, I leaned politically right, that I have debated with, and there have been people on the other side, inside the debate, who said, we're never going to use you. That's fine. You don't have to. That's the beauty of this country. So did I fail? The answer is yes. I did fail. That's the way it is. Unfortunately, I have come to the conclusion over the last couple weeks, after seeing things that are, and over the last few months, and especially over the last weeks, to do a little soul searching on this. And I've come to the conclusion that we must do what we can to protect our company's reputation and business. We need to train our employees to protect the business's reputation, as much as we need to have the backs of our employees and do what we can and put in place rules and systems that will protect our employees. The best way we can do that is let our employees know that we love them, we respect them, and that we will have their back in cases of crisis. And we need to further that by doing certain trainings and instructions to our employees to let them know if they're in certain situations, if you follow my rules and if you do what you're instructed, and you're not being belligerent or abusive, or you're not involved in such radical views while on company time or representing the company even off of company time, I will have your back. And that's what I gotta say. Unfortunately, in today's climate, we have to have this sort of activity going, especially now, and especially going into the future. It is only going to get worse, in my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong. I wish to be wrong, and I pray to God that I am. Unfortunately, I don't think I am, and I think it's going to get worse. So, as business owners, protect your employees and be the beacon of hope and trust and light in our communities. That is what I command to you. That's what I ask of you, and hopefully you agree. And if you don't, no, we're joking here. But anyway, guys, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you share this with all your family and friends. And don't forget, subscribe to this channel. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.